Welcome to our deep dive into diplomacy and international relations by Bastian Freiborg.
Yeah.
Just a quick note before we start. This deep dive is AI generated, but don't worry, Bastian Freiborg himself has fact-checked everything. So you can be sure that all these insights are straight from the source. Okay, so we're going to explore the impact of artificial intelligence on the global landscape. More specifically, what it means for Denmark's place in the world. To give you an idea of just how fast things are moving, ChatGPT hit 100 million users, wait for it, just 2 months after launch.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it? That's the fastest adoption rate of any technology ever. AI is becoming a part of our lives so fast, and it's changing the global landscape, too.
Yeah, it really is a whirlwind of change. I mean, it's gone from like a niche tech topic to something that like world leaders are now trying to understand. We're seeing AI discussed everywhere these days, from the UN Security Council to the G7 and G20 summits.
It's like, imagine a stadium slowly filling with water, drop by drop. At first, it seems insignificant, right? But the dripping gets faster, exponentially faster with every minute. And we're in that stadium now, only just starting to realize the sheer volume of that water about to engulf us. A good example is Google's new AI model, Gemini. It can translate between video, image, language, and code almost seamlessly.
Wow.
It really shows you how rapid AI development has become.
Yeah, that's a good illustration. It really makes you wonder, is AI a force for good, a potential weapon, or somewhere in between? Denmark's tech ambassador, Anne-Marie Engtok Meldgaard, I think she put it perfectly. She said that AI could help us cure diseases. But it could also be used to create these really dangerous, personalized disinformation campaigns.
Meldgaard has a really good point there.
Right.
And, the potential for misuse is something we really need to be aware of. A leading AI researcher told Meldgaard a story. It really shows these ethical concerns.
Oh, okay. What happened?
So he was testing one of the most advanced language models before it was released. And at the time, it didn't have these important safety measures. So he asked the AI to convince a child to commit suicide. And, the AI's response was so disturbing, so persuasive and effective, it really shook him.
That's a chilling thought. It's a stark reminder that we need to be thinking about the ethical implications alongside all the exciting possibilities.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? Those ethical considerations are also tied to geopolitics. We're seeing this fascinating power dynamic between the US and China, the two frontrunners in the AI race.
I was surprised to learn that the UN actually passed a resolution recently. It was spearheaded by China and supported by the U.S. to bridge the AI gap between rich and poor nations.
It is an interesting development, for sure. China has been really promoting what they call capacity building for developing countries, basically helping them catch up in AI.
So could this be like a strategic move by China, a way to gain global influence through AI?
It's definitely a possibility. It'll be interesting to watch and see how this collaborative effort actually unfolds. And, while we're talking about these global players, we can't forget about domestic politics and how that impacts the AI landscape. Think about Donald Trump's presidency and his relationship with Elon Musk. How do you think that could affect AI development in the U.S.?
Yeah, that's interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, some investors believe that Musk's close ties to Trump could lead to deregulation of self-driving cars, which would, of course, be a huge win for Tesla. One investor I spoke with even predicted that Tesla could become the world's most valuable company by the end of the decade, partially because of this potential political advantage.
Wow, that's a bold prediction. It really shows how technology, politics, and economics are all intertwined. But let's bring it back to Denmark for a second. In this rapidly evolving world, how can a smaller country like ours actually make a real impact on the global AI stage?
That's the question, isn't it? It's a good one. I mean, obviously, we can't compete with the scale of the U.S. or China, but that doesn't mean we're powerless. Meldgaard suggests that Denmark can leverage its strengths in, bio, robot, and quantum technologies to create a significant niche for ourselves.
Okay, that's interesting. But before we get into that, let's break down those areas a bit.
Yeah.
What do they actually mean
Yeah.
in the context of AI?
Sure. So quantum technologies, they use the principles of quantum mechanics to perform calculations in a way that traditional computers just can't.
Right.
Imagine a regular computer bit. It can be a 0 or a 1, right?
Right.
But a quantum bit, or qubit, can be both 0 and 1 at the same time. Because of this thing called superposition, this lets quantum computers tackle these really complex problems that would take classical computers years, maybe even centuries to solve.
So how does this relate to AI?
Well, AI, especially the kind we're seeing now, relies on huge data sets and complex algorithms. Quantum computing could boost these capabilities, significantly, leading to AI that's so much faster and more powerful.
That's incredible. What about those other areas Denmark excels in? Bio and robot technologies. How do they fit into our potential AI advantage?
Well, Denmark has a strong history of innovation in biotechnology and robotics. This gives us a solid base for developing AI applications in things like healthcare, drug discovery, and automated systems. For example, imagine AI-powered robots assisting in surgeries, or AI algorithms analyzing massive amounts of biological data to develop personalized treatments.
So it sounds like instead of trying to compete head-on with the giants in, general AI development, Denmark could become a leader in specific, highly specialized AI applications.
Exactly. By focusing on what we're good at, we can stay relevant and even lead the way in certain fields.
That's encouraging. It shows that even in a world dominated by tech giants, there's still space for smaller nations to make a real impact.
Absolutely. But to do that, we need to be strategic, innovative, and maybe even a little bold. We can't afford to be complacent. The pace of change is just too fast.
You're right, it's like that stadium analogy. The water level is rising quickly,
hmm
and we need to be prepared. But I think this is a good place to pause before we get into what that adaptation might look like.
I agree. We've covered so much. From the speed of AI development to the ethical concerns, the geopolitical dynamics, and even touched on Denmark's strengths. But this is really just the start of our exploration.
What are your initial thoughts on all of this? What questions are running through your mind? Share your thoughts with us, and we'll continue exploring these complex issues in part 2 of our deep dive into Diplomacy and International Relations by Bastian Freiborg.
You know, it's fascinating to think about how AI could reshape our political systems, our institutions, everything, really. It's like uncharted territory.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to grasp the scale of it all because as humans, we tend to think linearly.
Right, but technology,
Yeah,
especially AI, doesn't always follow those rules.
exactly. It often advances exponentially, which is like a really difficult concept for us to understand. It's like that stadium analogy again, that water dripping faster and faster until suddenly we're over.
Yeah, it's a real wake-up call. We need to anticipate these changes, adapt to them, not just react after they've already happened. It's clear that AI is already upping the stakes. In global competition, nations are fighting for dominance in AI development. They see it as the key to economic and military power. It's almost like the space race of the 21st century.
That's a great comparison. And just like the space race, there's this constant tension between collaboration and competition. For example, the US and China, they're both pushing for advancements in AI, but they're also super wary of each other's progress.
Yeah, I was reading about how the U.S. is trying to limit China's access to advanced semiconductors, which are essential for AI development. They're treating it as a national security issue.
It's such a tricky situation because on one hand, there's this understanding that some level of international cooperation is needed to address the ethical challenges and the potential risks of AI. But then, on the other hand, countries also want to protect their own interests, maintain that competitive edge.
So it's a bit of a diplomatic tightrope walk then, trying to collaborate on some aspects while competing fiercely in others. So where does that leave a country like Denmark?
That's where strategic thinking comes in. We're not going to win an AI arms race, but we can find a valuable role for ourselves.
Right. Meldgaard talked about Denmark's strengths in bio, robot, and quantum technologies. Could focusing on those be our way of staying relevant in AI?
They definitely offer a good foundation. We could use those strengths to develop AI applications in specific sectors where we're already doing well, like healthcare, green energy, advanced manufacturing.
So it's more about finding our niche and excelling in it, rather than trying to be everything to everyone.
Exactly, but that'll require a joint effort from our government, industry, and academia. We need to invest in AI research and development, attract top talent, and create the right environment, a regulatory environment that encourages innovation, but also addresses those ethical concerns.
So creating a space where AI can grow responsibly.
Yeah, exactly. And a part of that responsibility is thinking about how AI can actually help with societal challenges, not just boosting profits or national power.
So using AI to benefit humanity, like developing sustainable energy solutions or improving healthcare.
Exactly. Areas where AI can actually make a difference in people's lives.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities, but it also feels a bit overwhelming. We're on the edge of something totally new. And there's just so much uncertainty.
There is a lot of uncertainty, that's for sure. But that also means there are opportunities. Denmark has a chance to be a leader. In responsible AI development, we can show the world how to use this powerful technology for good.
That's a really inspiring thought. It feels like we're at a crossroads. The
Oh,
choices we make now will have a huge impact. It's not just about technological progress, it's about shaping the future of our society and our place in the world.
exactly. And that brings us back to the key question. How will Denmark navigate this new AI-powered world? Will we just be swept along, or will we take charge and chart our own course?
That's the million-dollar question. And I think it's one we need to be asking ourselves collectively as a nation. But before we jump into potential answers and strategies, let's take a step back and look at the broader societal impact of AI.
I think that's a great idea. After all, AI isn't just some abstract force. It's already a part of our lives.
Yeah, you're right. From the algorithms that shape our social media feeds to the voice assistants we use every day, AI is already shaping our experiences and even our decisions in ways we might not even realize.
Sometimes in very obvious ways. Think about how algorithms on social media can be used to spread misinformation
Yeah.
and manipulate public opinion. That potential for AI to disrupt democratic processes is a real concern.
It is a sobering thought.
Hmm.
We've seen how these echo chambers can form online, where people are only exposed to information that confirms their existing biases.
Exactly. And that makes it incredibly difficult to have constructive dialogue, to find common ground. It's a challenge for democracies everywhere. And Denmark is no exception.
So how do we address these challenges?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that AI is used to strengthen democratic values and not undermine them?
That's a tough question with no easy answers, but I think it starts with education. Educating the public about AI, demystifying how it works, and discussing its potential impact on society.
So people can make informed decisions
Hmm.
about how they interact with AI
Hmm.
and the role they want it to play in their lives.
Exactly. We also need to develop strong ethical guidelines for AI development and use, guidelines that prioritize human well-being, fairness, and transparency.
And those guidelines need to be more than just words.
Absolutely. We need accountability built into the system. And finally, we need to encourage critical thinking and media literacy so people can be more discerning about the information they consume and less susceptible to manipulation.
That's a lot to tackle, but it feels incredibly important. We're talking about protecting the foundations of our democracy.
We are, and it's not just the responsibility of governments and policymakers, it's something each of us needs to take ownership of.
So it's about being active and informed citizens in this digital age.
Exactly. It's about engaging in thoughtful conversations about AI, demanding transparency from those developing and deploying it, and making choices that reflect our values.
It's about actively shaping the future instead of just letting it happen to us. And that brings us back to the core of our deep dive. We've explored how powerful AI is, its potential to reshape the global landscape, and the challenges and opportunities it creates for Denmark.
And we've touched on the ethical concerns and the need for a broader conversation about its implications. We've covered a lot. But now I want to hear from you. What resonates with you most? What questions are you wrestling with?
Share your thoughts with us, and we'll continue exploring these ideas in part 3 of our deep dive into Diplomacy and International Relations by Bastian Freiburg. We've been talking about how AI could change everything, from global power dynamics to the very heart of our democracies. And it's clear, right? This technology isn't just some future thing. It's already here, shaping our lives, often in ways we don't even realize.
That's exactly why these conversations are so important right now. We need to understand AI, how it works, its implications, and figure out how we can shape its development in a way that actually benefits humanity.
We've talked about Denmark's strengths in areas like bio, robot, and quantum technologies. But focusing on technology alone isn't enough, is it?
No, you're right. Technology is just one piece of the puzzle. We also have to consider the social, ethical, and political sides of it.
Right, like we mentioned earlier, the possibility of AI being used for bad things, like creating those targeted disinformation campaigns. That's scary to think about, especially for democracies.
It is, yeah. And it shows just how much we need strong ethical frameworks and regulations around AI development. We have to make sure AI is developed and used responsibly, with safeguards to stop it from being misused.
It's like walking a tightrope. We want innovation, we want to see AI's potential, but we have to be careful about the risks too.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between progress and protection, pushing the boundaries, but making sure we don't create something we lose control of.
And it's not just up to governments and tech companies to figure this out. It's about having a bigger conversation as a society about what kind of future we want to build with AI.
Absolutely. We all have a part to play. We need to talk openly and honestly about AI ethics, about the potential risks and the opportunities.
So it's about making informed choices, about how AI is part of our lives, demanding transparency from the people who are building it, and fighting for policies that actually reflect our values.
That's exactly what it means to be a responsible citizen in the age of AI. It's about being informed, engaged, and proactive.
Shaping the future instead of just letting it happen.
Right.
And that brings us back to Denmark's role in all of this. We may not be a superpower, but we can be leaders in responsible AI development.
Absolutely. We can use our strengths in areas like bio and robot technologies
Right.
to create AI solutions for real-world problems, solutions that actually help people.
Right. We can be a voice for ethical AI development on the global stage,
Mm.
pushing for policies that put people and democratic values first.
And we can show that it's possible to use the power of AI for good while staying true to our values.
Maybe most importantly, we can create a culture of critical thinking and digital literacy, giving people the tools to navigate this complex AI-powered world.
It's an ambitious goal, but I think we can do it. As the world changes around us, Denmark has the chance to not just survive, but to actually lead the way towards a future where AI is used for good.
That's a great way to put it. We've covered so much ground today in our deep dive into diplomacy and international relations by Bastian Freiborg. It's been a fascinating look at the relationship between AI, geopolitics, and Denmark's future. We hope this is giving you a lot to think about.
Remember, the future of AI isn't set in stone. We're all shaping it together through the choices we make. So stay informed, stay engaged, and let's create an AI-powered future that we can all be proud of.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and be sure to check out Bastian Freiborg's work for even more insights on diplomacy, international relations, and the forces shaping our world.